And we absolutely live. I wasn't 100% sure because it was looking funny. It was doing something it normally doesn't do, but welcome to the show, everybody. Come on in. I see people are already in the building. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in, whether you're catching this after it's uploaded or whether you're catching it live right now. Make sure you hit the like button. That lets people know that you are here. This is I think part 4 of an ongoing reoccurring series when me and Ike are trying to solve all the problems in the world. That's what we're doing right now. So thank you for coming on in. And once again, hit that like button. Let's get ready to go. Let's roll. Let's get it.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
All right. We are back in business. What's going on? What's up, good people? As I always say, make sure you're hitting the like button. Hitting the like button as you come on in. Hit the like button as you come on in and let people know that you're here, to let people know that we are in the building. And getting this thing started. We will be joined by Ike momentarily. He's in the back chat, ready to go. But shout out to the early bird squad, those that come in bright and early and drop a comment before we get things all the way going and all the way started here. Ike dropped the first comment today, and he's being a bit pushy this morning. He said, "Split Spark." Shout out for the super chat. He asking for the link 10 minutes early. He know we don't do business like that around here. He know we don't do business like that. Shout out to Ike, trying to get the manosphere on time, trying to make black men be on time again. All right. Here we go. Good men in the building. Excalibur, what's going on? Salute to you. Omega Dreads, always in the building, bright and early. Shout out to Omega Dreads. We got 38 people who came in early. I want all 38 of you on the likes. And let's get this thing going. I'm trying to pull it up right now myself so I can hit the like button. And without further ado, 39 people in here, 27 on the likes. We got About 12 haters. About 12 haters. That's not a bad percentage rate. 12 haters in the building. Good men in the building. What is going on? What is going on? What is going on? But without further ado, let's bring the man of the hour. The man of the hour coming to the stage. Ike Ogiamien. Don't say nothing yet because I can't hear a goddamn thing. Well, you can say something. They can hear you. You can say hello to them, but not to me because I can't. I can't hear you.
Hello,
yet.
hello. Shout out. While you adjust your earphone there, I adjust my camera and all that good stuff. I hope you guys are not bothered by that brightness. The brightness of the Ethiopian sky behind me there. Hope that's not too bothersome. Is it, Bernard? Otherwise, I can.
Oh no, that's fine. That's not bothering anybody. I mean, you just look like you got just a glow halo or something behind you, like you just ascended in, to bring this good word to us, So that's all that is. That's just your rate. It's all just radiating off of you. If I said it right, yeah. That's what's going on there. That's what's going on there. But yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting conversation. We touched on why it's going to be interesting in the back chat. I wasn't even sure what to title it. I wasn't even sure exactly what to title it. So I just kind of spun off something that we talked about in the last show, but we're going to focus on the how. Now we're going to have to repeat this periodically throughout the show because undoubtedly somebody is going to come on the stream. And when we're talking about grandiose ideas of solving the problem on a macro scale, somebody is just going to say, man, just walk away. Somebody's undoubtedly going to say that. So I want to point out, we probably have to point out again, we covered that on the part 1 or part 2 in this series. We talked about what does the individual man have to do, given the current climate, the current state of affairs in the Western world with a Western man, particularly a traditional-minded Western man. What must he do given the current circumstances, the current layout, the bumpiness of the terrain, so to speak, out here? What does he do? So we talked about practical things that an individual can do, and some of the things are things that various factions or sectors within the manosphere already talk about doing. I think what Ike did is just put an emphasis on, yes, all of those things are options, and depending you and your temperament and where you're at. One option A may be good for you. Option B may be good for you. Option C may be good for you. Some people, MGTOW Monk may be good for them. Some people, passporting it up. Shout out to Pablo Frescobar. I like the things he's been doing with his channel lately. Shout out to Pablo if you're listening. Passporting it up. Understanding how women are and how they operate and how you must order yourself around that and only deal with certain things. Even if you stay right here on American soil dealing with American women, you got to understand that female chaos is more or less unchecked by the society. It can be checked by you in your individual life and what you allow. So understanding that, you're probably going to understand that, especially if we're talking on a long-term basis, it's probably just a smaller percentage of women domestically that you could actually be with in anything that resembles a long-term basis. Understanding those options, whether it's MGTOW, SYSBM, passporting it up, or just understanding the nature of what's going on. Put up your gates, your fences, deal with people long handle spoon, but those that are worthy, you can welcome them in, but understand the gravity of the situation when welcoming those in, regardless of what method you're doing. Me personally, I hate the me personally thing, but me personally, I am. Damn, I feel like my feet cut out for a second. Somebody said they're going MGTOW, Omega Dread's going MGTOW. Me personally, I'm with an American black woman who is temperamentally similar in thought process as me, and we work out. I understand that there are brothers who are temperamentally similar to me, and they probably have a hard time finding a woman in this culture that they could deal with. So understand that there's options. Understand that there's options. Understand what you need to do in the right now to get yourself together, get yourself ordered, get yourself, what's up, AC Star Talk Radio, what's up, get yourself together right now to get your better outcomes right now today. So men should be working on that, should be knowing and should be understanding how to do that and how to get that going, how to get your things ordered today. But we're going to be moving to the macro, how to solve this larger macro problem that some people probably don't even think is a problem, but no, it's a problem in the Western world. But that was my recap of the last few shows. Well, we touched on the macro in the last show, but we didn't get into the overwhelming how. But the what? Let's briefly recap the what when it comes to solving the macro problem.
Excellent. Shout out to Bernard and the chat and the gang and those whom we'll be watching later and those silently watching in the back. Now, you mentioned something about the problem, or is it a problem? Now, I'll just mention that people do say in this space that lack of two-parent households, the discord between men and women, the results that flows out of that. Need I say more, right? So there's a kind of an attitude, and I have that kind of attitude too, because I'm an individualist like you tend to be, where it's like, hey, I'm cool, that kind of a thing. But outside the other side of our mouth, we do know about collective outcomes being affected by these kinds of collective data, right? About, let's say, family structure and so on and so forth. So it is a problem. So recap on the general. The general was this, that basically there needs to be order, again, in men, reinstated with men. That is order and hierarchy. And also, while at the same time having, because basically there's a breakdown of community. I think that was the main thing to say. Like, this is a breakdown of a community, and then how do you bring a community back together again? In order to do that, you need order on the side of men. You need, because of the particular symptoms of this problem, for femininity to be celebrated again. Because what happened is femininity broke down. That's why it's not, you tend not to have femininity exalted, venerated, pursued, valued, if you will, right? And it's all, well, let's just be a man, and let's strong, independent, don't need no man. I am a man. I can go out there and compete with any man. Blah blah blah. Anything feminine is barefoot and pregnant, right? So order in men.
But those women who try to get their femininity celebrated, even on a those are the pick-me women who are rebelling against the system. Shout out to hold on, wait, I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, I did, but I didn't
Super
mean
chats.
to. But since I already cut you off, good man, I almost skipped over the super chat. Sunday service, Pastor Bernard and guest Pastor Ike. Right on. That's sort of what we're doing here. We're trying to replace the church, because I think we're gonna be talking about infiltrating churches and all kind of stuff today. And this is a start right now. We're infiltrating. We're trying to, because all the churches are online, a lot of them nowadays. So we're trying to take the church crowd right now, and the church's money. But Michael Ross, thank you for this. That's messed up. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, Google how much churches make in America. The total, it's insane. But Michael Ross in the building with the super chat. We appreciate that. But yeah, go ahead. We were.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Just hold on 1 second. I gotta knock up. Let me. Okay. Just
go ahead. I can ramble.
Yeah.
I can ramble. Utopia in the building says check out Ike Ogiamien's YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that link, guys, and go subscribe to Ike. Go subscribe to Ike. Make sure you do that. What was we talking about? We was talking about the church. yes, the church makes I won't even say unethical amount of money, but they do make a lot of money. This isn't a diabolical scheme to try to take money from the church right now. But however, it is interesting because churches are, when I'm doing a stream on Sunday in a suit, I can't help but think that, that's what all the pastors are doing right now. They're getting suited up to go and speak to the flock, so to speak.
And we're going to be more practical about things. I think we're going to have a better message. Yeah, I'm being blasphemous.
We're going to be more practical than Jesus. This is we may do something on this. I didn't get to watch your stream, but I heard, well, no, not your stream. I heard you mention that, I don't even know if this has happened yet, but you and Red Sings the Blues, you're going to be on his show. Has that happened yet?
No, it's happening later on tonight, as a matter of fact.
Okay, good.
Your time.
Good.
For me, it's early tomorrow morning, but we actually are going to be talking about like spirituality and religion and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm interested in that. Now, I've heard you talk about spirituality. I don't know if I've heard you speak on religion. Real briefly, off subject, because we may go down this rabbit hole someday in this series. Where are you at on? Okay, do you have an exact religious faith, or is it more a spirit? Okay, no, that's a no. Whenever somebody says,
No. It's you're familiar with Jordan Peterson, right?
Yes.
You familiar with how whenever people ask him whether he believes, his "Do you believe in God" or "Do you believe in Jesus"? People asking him that all the time, and how he answers it. Do you know about that particular thread of Jordan Peterson?
No, I don't. Even though I heard him in a debate with an atheist before. It was really good, but no, I don't know. I don't know his I guess go-to answer when people ask him that. But go ahead.
For those who know, okay, and I'm qualifying it with this, I am kind of like Jordan Peterson in that regard, where it's like that word, okay, God, religion, and so on and so forth, is so big and so deep that you don't even know when you're talking to someone else, right? When somebody asks you, you don't even know what to answer. Now, the reason Jordan Peterson and people like myself do this, because we're like, oh, you're meandering, like, well, it depends on what is, and that kind of crap, is because when you have a philosophical mind, psychological mind, a mind that kind of believes in mythology and art and so on and so forth, you've gone down deep into certain rabbit holes whereby it's like someone saying something from way out there at the top of the cave, asking, like, hey, do you believe in God? And I'm like, if I say,
you don't want to say language. I get it, because you don't want to say yes, because by saying yes, you just told them that you believe in the wonky God that they believe in.
Whatever is in their mind, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's fair to say that this thing is a deep rabbit hole. It's probably the deepest rabbit hole there is, which is, the origin of the universe, what the purpose, is there not, so on and so forth. But basically, let me put it this way. My personal metaphysics is this. I am in awe that anything exists at all, right? So I wake up in the morning, I open my eyes. The fact, okay, and I'm just talking about existence itself, just space-time causality, okay? Space-time causality or space-time and matter, depending on how you want to talk about it. It actually is, bruh. And there's nothing you can tell me logically that says that it should be. In other words, there is no, of course there's space-time and matter because, X plus, no. In other words, there is nothing whatsoever that says that anything should be. Yeah. That is almost the beginning and the end of my own personal metaphysics, right? Where it's like, from there, there's a attitude of gratitude. Yeah, I didn't mean to sound cheesy with that.
Attitude of gratitude.
Exactly, because it's like, okay, nothing should it really. This is, I mean it. Like, this is how I experience the world. I am just tripping that. In other words, it's a whole freaking miracle, because people are always talking about miracles. And it's like, dude, you in the universe. you know what is that? And you're looking for a miracle. It's like, oh no, but water exists. And you're like, but I want it to turn to wine. Then I'll really be. It's like, dude, it actually, there is stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know. I get you on that. The best
that's
way.
That's the first point, though. Yeah.
Okay, that's the first point. I heard someone say that, to say that, and you didn't exactly say this, but a lot of people say the mere fact that anything exists means there has to be a God, but that's to assume that the natural zero state of existence is to not exist. You know, so
Exactly. They're already yeah, they're
it
playing
gets.
games there.
You think so?
No, I think that, and that's why, generally speaking, these are things that you remain silent about. In other words, the fact that existence exists, you cannot say anything about it. If you really are aware of that fact, right? And then you start saying, oh, but how about God and this and that? You've already you just left the room. You just left that zone. You know what I mean? There is the zone where you're like, wow, stuff actually exists. The moment you start doing this other thing, which is more of verbalization, rationalization, argumentation, this and therefore that, boom, you left that zone already. Now, there are attitude type things that follow, though, but not words per se, right? You can have words about the attitude, like I said, an attitude of gratitude, for example. Why? Because, well, Bernard, the fact that you exist, I exist, microphones exist, that sweet coffee you're sipping exists, I think you like that, right?
Yes, love it.
These are the kinds of things that you can say. And then there's certain other ways to align yourself with quote unquote existence, right? Quote unquote the evolutionary truths, if you will. That's why I kind of say I'm kind of Petersonian in that regard. And then there are traditions that link that whole thing and call it God. But guess what? They warn you, though. Even the Jewish tradition, if you take it, they say no image, right, should be made of him. What does that mean, right? In other words, you don't know what it. It's a nice ringtone.
Thank you.
You cannot speak his name even. You don't know. It is the unknowable, right? Many traditions warn you of trying to have a concept of this thing, right? However, yeah.
No, I like where you're going with that, because a lot of times it's the mere concept of it that just makes my head just I can't even listen to people talk about it. It's okay. So as soon as somebody starts trying to anthropomorphize it, that means add human like attributes and qualities to it. That for me, that's when they leave the room. If you want to talk about the beginning of the universe and what was before the Big Bang and what was before that and before that first initial spark, whatever the hell it was, in some way, shape, or form, that's God. I mean, I can follow that, but that gets
that's not very
weird.
Satisfactory at all. That's just that's just time. That's just looking back in time and then saying you're gonna find God at the beginning of time. That's not satisfactory.
Okay, that's why I can say I don't have a particular, but it's nothing is satisfactory in this for me. We'll talk about that. That's another subject.
Yeah, here's what beyond this, okay? Here's what's satisfactory. So you talk about people anthropomorphizing God, right? And they do it in a, what's the word, okay? They do it like in a real, literal way, right? So there is a tendency to anthropomorphize any kind of chaotic or any kind of thing that you can't quite wrap your head around. For example, you're like, let's see what Bitcoin will do today. Bitcoin has been, you know what I'm saying? Whenever there's chaos, but it's not like a straight thing that you can kind of figure out, you kind of like, I wonder what the weather is up to today. You know what I mean? We tend to put kind of agency or spirituality, which means consciousness, behind things, right? You're like, seems like the weather is trying to do this, or it seems like Bitcoin's trying to wonder what the market is. We talk that way. It's a natural kind of progression. But people who just but God is the biggest kind of like weather, if you will. But people do it like literally. They don't understand that they're just doing the same thing that they do when they talk about Bitcoin. Like they're putting agency on the face and stuff behind that stuff, which is fine for language purposes. But you see what I mean when I say I don't want to answer that question because I'd rather have this conversation, right?
Right.
And what people are asking you when they believe in God, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. They. If you ask somebody who really thinks metaphysical and philosophical on it, but it sounds like you're asking them they're asking you, do you believe in some God man? It's like you almost have to say no, but you don't want to just say no. So I do understand
because that's also it's like
I do understand your conundrum there.
So I always just say, look, I wake up, anything, boom, wow, and then gratitude, and then other kinds of attitudes, and then the minute you start trying to put words into it, then I'm no longer with you.
Yeah, that's where. Yeah, so yeah, I think I understand your position. We'll do some content and deep dive on that. Like I spent a lot. I'm a little rusty on it because before there was a time when the whole community online that debates all of those issues. There was almost for a while that was all I watched on the internet. Same way that people watch Manosphere content, I watched that kind of content. So I kept up with all the, I saw the Sam Harris, William Lane Craig debates, Christopher Hitchens, all of that stuff. Dawkins, Dan Udinit, Steven Pinker. I was following all that they're doing. Read a lot of their books. So that whole Frank Turek, I think he's the one. He wrote the was he the one that wrote the case for? Okay, I don't know. I'm botching it right now. It's been a while. It's been a while. So I was going to apply the wrong book to the wrong person, and I want to do that. But Snuggles 668. I have reached early, so I don't have to punish myself for being late. So I can get the live early morning sermon. Is Pastor Jackson attending? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I was going to throw you off with the first question. What's your thoughts on all this Derek Jackson controversy? I was going to throw that at you, Ike, but I'm not.
I could answer because
okay,
look,
good. Let me do my super chats and then I'm going to throw some Derek Jackson stuff at you just to see what you say. But I view you as somebody who just could care less, but you normally have an interesting take on everything, so I will hit you with it. What does this say right here? I suspect that Jade is not pronounced J with the J sound. I want to say Sunjata. I don't know if you are familiar with what's going on there. Sunjata Reborn.
No. Yeah, Sunjata or Sunyata, but we shall one of those.
One of those. Okay. Take the church's money. Absolutely. Snuggles back in here. Oh, wait, no, that was already read. Good men in the building. So nobody is cheating on their wives and finding the Lord after like Derek Jackson. Damn. Yeah. Nope. Nobody's finding the Lord like Jackson. Red Sings the Blues loves these kinds of collabs. Salute to you both. Thank you, Red Sings the Blues, for the super chat. I already pubbed your discussion you'll be having with Ike. I understand other people will be on the panel as well, but I know Ike will be on your show later on tonight. So shout out to you guys for that. All right, go ahead and give us your take on action packing Jackson, as Tasha K calls him. Go ahead.
So the overarching thing is people always like to make these broad sweeping generalizations about certain circumstances, including, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to mention certain things, let's say in the manosphere, for example. And I know that, some of the content creators that do this are doing it partially for entertainment. So they're like, an example of some kind of crazy generalization is like, oh, well, if your girl's going to the gym at midnight, then she must be going to see Tyrone. It's like, well, you know what? She could be seeing Tyrone at 10 a.m., or some people actually go to the gym at midnight. You get what I'm saying? Okay. That kind of crazy little, you look at that position right there, that means she was trying to, those kind of picture analysis of body. It's like, dude. So in this particular case, many people are drawing many lines through the Derek Jackson aspect. I say I take it page by page. His content, as far as the things that he said that you disagree with, you can look at that one page, two-dimensionally only, and just say, okay, I disagree with these things. Maybe I can speculate as to why he's doing it, I can see possible incentives. Obviously, there's a marketplace there for it. Maybe I may call his character into question for simping for these kind of stuff. Maybe I can think it's not fair that he tends to throw certain kinds of people under the bus, blah, blah, blah. But it's not necessarily the devil for it, or that kind of a thing. And then you'd go over to the next page, which is, he's cheating on his wife. Like, okay, well, since when is that new, right? But people want to then make a connection from one page to the next. It's like, he was saying that he was never this kind of guy, therefore he was like, plus also on this page of cheating, that's where you actually have less information, right? Where it's like, you don't really know what's going on, right? In any relationship. We all know that, right? Mm-hmm. So now the fact that there's a face of it that's public, yeah, sure, people are going to say all kinds of things, right? Now I'm just being I'm just being myself here, like in terms of like, this is how I look at things. And I'm not going to, this is the same thing that you said, which is like, I don't care. This is me saying I don't care in the sense that I look at things page by page and not think that, there is a through line. You see, when he said this thing there, it is because he was really like this and because we did that and did. It's like, no, I have incomplete information on each of these pages. And for sure, I cannot be drawing through lines into the whole book and be like, now I got him. This is this type. It's like, I don't know anything, only just some basic stuff. The most important of which is, some entertainment, right? That's going on right now. It's bad to be entertained by these, but you put stuff out there. It's going to be entertaining, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, Miss Jackson.
Nah.
But I am for real. Anyways, but the other aspect has to do with the actual content, which you're going to say, hey, why are you doing this? Plus, okay, no shade to the man personally, but I never quite thought he was talented at all. Like, I'm like, he's boring as hell. Sitting there like, you see, wait a minute, maybe what the hell? Why is anybody listening to this dude? Well, I know why, but it's just like, no talent whatsoever.
Yeah. He mastered the fine arts of word salad and telling them what they want to hear. I think he did master those fine arts. He mastered the fine arts of saying exactly what needed to be said in each situation to make them feel better about themselves, even if they're the exact type of woman that engages in this particular situation that he's putting the cape on for. He knows how to drum up the BS. That's pretty much where it's at. And some could argue that that's really not hard to do. For me, that actually would be difficult. I just can't sit there and say nonsense knowing that it's nonsense and say it with a straight face and with convictions. So he has a talent in word salad BS. And so, I mean, that's
maybe he's a narcissist, which is not a big deal either. There are many of them out there in the world. So these people tend to lack a certain kind of, shall we say, introverted feeling about things that they just wouldn't do. You know what I mean? So it's not hard to do. It's just you will not feel. You will have a sensation inside about it. You can be like, come on, I don't want to do this crap, right? So, but if you just sidestep that, then it's not hard to do.
Yeah. This comment here speaks of somebody who's I would say doesn't get it. He says, Derek Jackson is human. If he came to the red pill space or the manosphere and apologized, we should forgive him. The world and cancel culture is dumb because it doesn't allow growth. We destroy. It's not about forgiveness and growth. I mean, the people who he was advocating for they can decide whether or not they will forgive him for the cheating. As far as the red pill space is concerned, he was saying a lot of BS that just wasn't true. And we tend to believe, given the lifestyle that he lived, he knew that it wasn't true when he was saying it, but he was saying it. So it's not about growth. It's about, I mean, so unless you're saying that he needs to come forth and say, hey, you got me. I know I was full of crap, not because I wasn't living that life, but because the things that I was saying was patently false and didn't make any damn sense. And I knew it didn't. Go ahead.
To react to the comment here, one thing that makes sense though is, and I don't think anybody in here is doing it because we're not, it's like, we're not the cancel culture police where we're going to go be like, we're gonna go chase him around, being like, oh, he's on this thing. Let's write reports to the whatever and try to let's if he has some other jobs, let's take it down. Let's stop the bank accounts. Like, no one is doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Plus, I believe in second chances. But the thing about second chances is you may have to go find your second chance elsewhere. You know what I mean? It's like you burned somebody once, right? Yes, second chances for you, for your life, but not with them. You know what I mean? You may need to then go maneuver, move to the next town, move to there, flip, become a pastor, something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
then you get your
that's on the table. That's becoming a pastor is literally on the table right now.
And that's fine.
Bishop T.D. Jakes, him and Bishop T.D. Jakes got a potential deal on the table, a book deal, and all kind of stuff going on. So yes, he could transition to a traveling pastor who found the Lord, and that religious church crowd is a crowd that are probably, because it's predominantly women, so they're probably receptive to the things that he was saying, and they're not like us and just like, this dude is just a complete off his rocker. He's saying a bunch of nonsense. There's still a group of people out there who thinks that he wasn't saying nonsense. There's a group of people out there that think that his information is actually good, and he could find those people in the church. So just sprinkle some Jesus dust on it. That's the reason you tend to kind of punt when people ask you, do you believe in God? Because you don't want to get associated with all of that lunacy that they got going on over there. But so yeah, he could pivot in that direction. He can definitely pivot in that direction and get a second chance with the church, and big up in the Lord and how he's been saved, delivered, and set free from his wicked, sinful ways. Because for them, the only thing he needs to overcome is, I was cheating on my wife and I don't do it no more. That's all he has to overcome with them. But for the manosphere, it's so much more.
Yeah, it's a credibility issue, because you cannot no longer have, once you lose credibility that way, which is people already suspect that you were just saying certain things and you didn't quite believe it, you were doing this, then you can't come to this same person and say, switch. In other words, I believe in second chances. The world is a big place. You know what I mean? There are many avenues, but you can't keep on knocking at the same. You can't be like, oh, no, let me back in. It's like, find another door. We all had to do that kind of thing at some point in our life in some particular dimension, right?
Right on. But yeah, but no, the Derrick Jackson thing will be ongoing. Tasha K has said that she just posted in her community tab about 24 hours ago. She said 4 more mistresses have come forward. So yeah, he's going to put up a lot of numbers, and yeah, God damn it, we're going to cover it over here on my show. but yeah.
So back to,
yes,
I was
get back there.
Given the recap on the broad, right? The broad aspect is this, okay? Order amongst men, celebration of femininity, which requires festivals, okay? Certain things whereby several times a year, there's a rite of passage for a woman that maybe she turns 15. It's about beauty and about femininity, about all that girly stuff, right? And they're happy. They look forward to it. Oh, yeah, mine is next year, da, 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 da. And then there are other festivals that are more formally, like the maidens and then the grandma, so on and so forth. There's a traditional garb that's used. It's ceremonial. It's ritualistic. This also tends to then serve the third element, which that is there needs to be a narrative which binds a community together. It's almost like a mythological, spiritual, religious narrative. We are this type of people. We are Wakanda, whatever it is, right?
We are Wakanda. I like that.
It is necessary, as you know, right? Even the most rational of foundings, let's say the founding of America, has its own, shall we say, rites, rituals, artifices, the sacred documents, and the putting of the hand over the heart, and you say the words. What is that? We are human animals, and this particular thing called human animals just needs to do that stuff. When people start trying to rationalize, like, oh, but why? It's like asking why the sun exists. It's like, okay, sure. Why do you have 5 fingers instead of 10? Why does gravity pull? It's like, this is just one of those givens. The human animal, and it starts with other mammals, right? We tend to need to do these kind of ritualistic things. If you don't have one, you'll have another one. It's just like, if you give all of them up, there's still some routine or ritual that you do in your life. right? It's just part of the gig. And as a group, we need that. So order in men, celebration of femininity, using these rituals and so on and so forth. And then that tends to tie the group together with this overarching narrative. That's what we talked about the last time. That is the what. And now we're saying, well, how? How is this going to happen? And I would start out by saying that there is an image aspect, okay, which is both the image of the, shall we say, the man, the Western man, or let's say the African-American man in this case, okay? Positive image. By positive, I mean affirmative, not what the image is not. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, that is not our image. They're portraying us and so on and so forth. It's like, okay, but what is your image? Put it out there, positive, affirmative, not what it's not, right? So this has to be creative, which makes it hard because it's easy to destroy. It's easy to tear down the boogeyman. It's easier to say, hey, the white man is holding me back. But it's harder to put out a positive image of yourself. So there's an image aspect, which obviously involves media, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a training aspect. This is still on the men's side. And then there's a part which I'm going to call turning up the heat on the competition. This is just a simple economic principle here, which is saying amongst the women, you need to turn up that heat of competition. Now, this is going to sound like cis-bim in the sense that when we get to it, we'll expound upon it. But that is really what I'm getting at, which is like, hey, you know what? Let's say take Kevin Samuels, for example. Like he has this, the catch and the prize, right? This may become shows. He may kind of develop some kind of a segment or something like that. Maybe something, whatever it may be, right? But let's say Kevin Samuels now hooks up with, African Tigress, some another YouTuber or some other media influencers in the African space, okay? And they start doing like / matchmaking type stuff, right? Where they bring in a whole bunch of competition of vetted women of the sort that us simps out here say we want. Just, tongue in cheek, we're having a good time. And these people have that, they've been trained to be that, number one. So we know they have that cultural pedigree. They come from stable backgrounds and they're willing to do the whole femininity cooperation type thing, right? That's turning up the competition where it's like, oh, okay, you don't want to supply me with rubber anymore, China? I'm going to Vietnam. Vietnam is going to give me all the rubber. Then it's like, oh, okay, China now has to do something. The ball is now in China's court. So again, there is the image. We'll start from there maybe, training of men. And then there's that right turning up of the competition. Okay, these are the kind of the hows. But right beginning from the image, we know that we have to talk about this power thing, which is you need a George Soros type. Now, because we need to perhaps lay out some examples because we talked in the last stream that there are people that wrote things such as like Rules for Radicals, like Saul Alinsky, for example, and people who plan in a long way and write books on postmodernism and Foucault, for example, and then they see now their ideas are coming into fruition in SJW culture and so on and so forth, and cancel culture. Like people actually lay down the groundwork for this kind of stuff. So it can be done in the intellectual space. Plus, it tends to be funded, in this case, by someone like, let's say, George Soros, right? So there is a money behind it. The money moves the media, it moves certain kinds of organizational things and so on and so forth. So you need, because we're talking about how, this money person. Now, why should this money person do it? Because I don't think they necessarily need to do it for the kumbaya reasons, but I'll let you kind of react to what I've said so far. Image, training, and ratcheting up the competition. Starting off from the image side with the recognition that you need a big money person. We've seen examples of them. And any reaction so far?
Well, yeah. When you made it to the big money part, because that's quite often where the problem comes in. You're talking about some huge culture changing initiative. If it's just happening at the grassroots, if it's happening organically, then you don't need the big money thing. But if somebody with some grandiose idea, yeah, it would need the funding behind it. But too often, if we're looking at Black people, for example, it turns into almost like a collection plate kind of thing. Like everybody just pitch in a little bit, but you're just saying, yeah, that's great, but it really does need just to be one big mega rich person who buys into the vision. So but why? What's in it for him? He's already living in his paradise.
Exactly.
He's walking on sunshine, wiping his butt with $100 bills every day. He's good. So why would he even care? It's sort of like the example, not that Jay-Z is supposed to lead us or anything, but I always use the example of Jay-Z talking about in those, in black neighborhoods, in the ghetto, in the hood, they need jobs. And Bill Maher said it would be nice if somebody who came from those ghettos could use his money. Somebody who's rich who came from those ghettos could use his money to create some jobs out there. It was like a checkmate. And I always use that example that, yeah, somebody super rich with a grandiose idea could move the needle on a lot of the stuff that they talk about or advocate for, a lot of things that we advocate for. Yes, I could start some little fund or start some little organization, and I have no idea how to do none of that stuff. But I've been talking to people behind the scenes on, well, what about this? If I wanted to do this, how would that work? What would I need? What would I? And then there's a lot of steps and a lot to it. But there are people.
Yeah, why would they do it?
But yeah, let's get into the why. Like I know why. I know why I think it's a good idea, because I would like to see overall better outcomes for Black people. A lot of times when I'm talking about Black people, Black family structure, the utter acrimony between Black men and Black women, when people come into the conversation and just say, hey man, just get you a passport, bro, I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about here. Like, I can solve my personal problem of how to get my junk wet by a proper woman. I can solve that personal problem. I was looking at bigger issues because I know outcomes for Black people are better when there's more families. The Black people that are born into structured families have better outcomes, but the individual who hold up. So again, that's when I get out of my individual and start looking at the macro. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, Bernard, you're probably old enough to be the president of the United States, right? Or are you not?
38. So, yeah, that's over 35. Yeah. Yes.
So you may already kind of sense the reason why I said that, because there are a lot of people that don't understand when people start talking about big ideas, and they always want to bring it down to the personal. It's like, well, this is your time. The people coming behind you will be saying, what the hell did you do with your time? You're old enough to be the president of the United States. If you can't talk about big things, macro things that don't necessarily affect the way you go about doing your business, then what the hell are you doing, right?
Right. No, I agree. I agree. Every time that we've seen something move in a large scale way, yes, it was people with grandiose ideas. We talk about how the outcomes and results from things that happened in the 60s and 70s, how they still have some effect on society today, or they affect the way that the culture changed overall. We talk about that all the time in this space, but somebody had some weird, grandiose ideas that actually came to fruition. So yeah, I do like what you said there. I like how you said it.
And I like what you said there about you having reasons why you would like to see it happen. Now, these reasons are necessary for the reason you gave, which is you want to see positive outcomes. They're necessary for a long-term, sustained result of the sort that we're looking for, but they're not sufficient. In other words, you could be Bernard Riley, billionaire with 6 other billionaire friends of a similar sort in different regions of the world. You are in tech. You obviously need a media kind of guy, and then you need maybe like more of a politically driven type, like a George Soros type, right? And then you obviously need the media, like let's say like a Rupert Murdoch type, right? Because these people actually do stuff like this. Or back in the day, you could talk about the William Randolph Hearst, who personally, like did things like made marijuana illegal just because he didn't want the hemp, blah, blah. People do this stuff with media, you know what I mean? So
wait, hold on real quick. Somebody said shots fired at Passport Bros. There's no shots fired at Passport Bros. The guy who I believe started the Facebook page called I think Obsidian gave him the nickname Passport Bros, but I think the person who started that page is Pablo Frescobar, who's a regular member friend of the show and even named the show The Grown Man Hour. So, I am cool with the Passport Bros. It's more so just the people who can't read the room of the conversation that's happening when we're talking about multi-generational grandiose ideas to solve problems on a macro level. They'd come in with an individual solution, and I don't just attribute that to Passport Bros, but I attribute that to individuals who are not reading the room or properly gauging the tenor of the conversation. That wasn't a shot at Passport Bros. Got nothing but love for them.
100%.
I shouted Pablo out at the beginning of the show because I love the stream that he did where they show some receipts. Show some receipts of some of the wives of those gentlemen. I liked it. So yeah, I like the direction he's going with his channel. So yeah, shout out those brothers out all the time. Chief Rocket in the building with the super sticker. Shout out to you. Appreciate it. All right, go ahead, carry on. I cut you off, but I had to address that. Those were no shots. That was something that we anticipated though early on in the conversation, that people are going to be coming in saying, "Hey, just walk away." It's like, no, this isn't that conversation. We're not trying to solve an individual problem here. We're looking at bigger.
Yeah, because you're trying to write a book about how to solve a big grand thing, but you may know it may not even happen in your lifetime. So what you're doing right now in your lifetime is completely separate from the ideas in that book. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Plato writing Plato's Republic, talking about this philosopher king when he was living in a democracy in Athens at that time. It's like, you get what I'm saying? So anyways, the point is, why would this person do it? And you said that good outcomes, right? And I say that this point is necessary, perhaps, in order for long-term, for the thing to be sustainable, right? In order for the solution that you offer, Bernard, billionaire, and friends, to be sustainable, you actually need to have you want this thing to actually work, and you want it to work for the people, right? But it's not sufficient, because you might be that person that's like, hey, I want good outcomes, but I don't see any economic, political, or sociological incentives. I don't trust that it might even work, because I trust economics working, but I don't trust just my feelings working. In other words, on the image side, for example, the person has to benefit economically from all this image that they're pushing. Right?
Interesting.
You have to benefit economically. In other words, you can trust that if you set something up and there's an economic engine that pushes out, let's say, for example, and I don't know if I can share something.
Should be able to.
Kind of. I say, okay, yeah. Look at me. So a particular window I am trying to share. Oh no, let me just go ahead and share my whole screen, and I'll just go to that way I don't mess it up, right? So if you, on my screen should be an image of one of my Wakanda gears, right, that I wore. Okay, now O'Shea Duke Jackson posted this on his channel. Most of the comments, I don't know how many comments here, right? 200 and something comments, where can I get that stuff, right? Where can I get this? Where can I get this? Where can I get this? I'm showing a market for something, an article of culture, an artifact, if you will, right? Now, it doesn't have to be this particular thing, but we're talking about an image here, right? So if I can, and you can take the image down now. Okay. I'm going to go back to my StreamYard. I'm over here laptop and only have one screen. My bad. So there is a market for, let's say, that kind of an article. Let's say, so in other words, Mr. Bernard, billionaire, you're like, if I push, okay, certain influencers like Kevin Samuels, right? Maybe he puts his own spin on it. Maybe there is because that's called a kaftan, right? And there are different kinds of kaftans or whatever. Maybe there's a kaftan by Kevin Samuels. He has his own branding on it, right? And he pushes that because right, he pushes Tom Ford and some other things, right? Great. And people kind of he can do it. He's in that kind of he's in that market. He starts pushing that. Because you're a billionaire, you can also get Drake to wear this thing, or Drake or any other kind of semi-respectable rapper, to just wear it in one of his videos randomly, right? These kinds of things happen all the time. Simple product placement, right? And all the print media, sorry for the hotel telephone, all the print media is also pushing this thing, okay? It shows up randomly, other social media influencers, because we're talking again, I mentioned image, okay, and then there's training, and then there's the competition. We're in this image part. So a positive image doesn't have to be, that's only just one aspect. I just talk about the clothing and a particular type of clothing, right? But it has to be something positive, and it has to be different. And also it has to be something that can be worn either officially or professionally or casually. That part is important because other kinds of garb, including African garb or other kinds of things you may think about, because granted, this is not about back to Africa type stuff, but there has to be elements that trace, because there is a trajectory there. You can't just like cut it off like it never happened. We were never there, that kind of a thing. But what I showed you, for example, has elements of Western type stuff plus elements of African type stuff. Okay, you can add other kinds of elements, but it has to be different. In other words, that thing that I showed you is quite different from your suit and tie, right? And you start pushing that thing because you know, here's the economic incentive, that just in this one particular aspect, I'm not talking about all the other things that you will push image-wise that will sell, right? Because you're selling, you're going to be, you have the manufacturing already laid out, how you're going to produce this high-quality kaftans, right? And you're pushing it out there in these different forms of media. You know it's going to improve the image. Because you're going to use a certain kind of advertising. You're not going to use Pookie and Ray Ray advertising, right? And you're not going to use simp advertising either, right? You're going to portray a strong masculine version of this particular person that we're trying to portray. Let's say the African American male, right? And you're going to be selling those things, right? And now you can be sure that something's actually happening. It's selling. There's a market and there's a push. So I have the good feelings. I want things to work, but there's also an economic incentive. Just in this one particular dimension. Any comments so far?
I like it so far. It's the image version of something that I've always said, and we'll probably get into this. But I always talked about how, let's look at somebody like when I mentioned creating jobs. Example I always use. I talk about how did Sam Walton, the owner of Sam's Club and Walmart, did he create Walmart and Sam's Club so he can provide jobs for his community or his fellow countrymen, or was he just trying to make some money? You know, he made money, but he happened to also create a lot of jobs nationwide, if not globally. I'm sure he got Walmarts all over the place. So you're talking about the image aspect of it, and how overall changing, affecting, influencing the image that we have here, and the person who's financially backing the grandiose idea to save the, I hate to use the term, save the community. He's ultimately going to profit or bare minimum break even, because he's financially also putting out the products that people are that we're promoting to people. There's a lot of different images that have been promoted, and people have bought it, and people have gotten rich off of it. So I think the incentive as to why it is working out, it's checking out so far. This guy, this billionaire, he does have grandiose ideas. He's like me in the sense that he would like to see better outcomes overall for people, even if it's some long-winded multi-generational plan. He would like to see better outcomes, but he don't just want to take out of his $10 billion. He don't want to just pinch $2 billion off of it and throw it away potentially for some outcomes that may not even, that may happen when he's not even here. He don't want to do that. So it's about figuring out a way to make it to where it's financially advantageous for him to even embark on this journey. So I like where it's headed so far. You solved the first problem potentially, and even then that's risk. Even then that's risk, but you solved the first problem of why would this guy do that? Why would Robert Smith care about his or he probably worth more than $5 billion by now. That was $5 billion a year and a half ago. He probably worth more now. But why would Robert Smith care about putting his $5 billion into some grandiose plan and idea? Why? You do. Exactly. I think you solved the why would he go ahead and do it.
So there's another aspect besides the, okay, it's going to I'm going to get a return. But really what's going on behind Robert Smith's head, really what's going on behind Bernard the billionaire's head is economics. In other words, the marketplace
Hold on,
is
follow what's going on. That was an example. That was an example. He wasn't telling everybody to dress that way. Follow what's going on. He said, if I could see that. Oh, wait, no, I thought he said, I can't see that coming to trend.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying, I can't see it coming to trend.
I think that is an example of something whereby it's like, I could be walking like through an airport looking like I'm going to a business meeting in that outfit, right? It doesn't look like some dashiki, agbada, throw over this, that. It's not that kind of thing, right? It does not look like a ceremonial garb either. In other words, you want something that is efficient, clean, doesn't look like ceremonial garb, but it's different, okay? Now, in that particular regard, and I was just talking about the fact that the marketplace is a place of experimentation. What's really going on behind your head when you say, I don't want to do this unless I can put an economic engine behind it, is you're really saying, I want to see it play out. I want to see a market. I want to see buying and selling. I want to see demand and supply. I want to see people review. I want people say things about. You get what I'm saying, right? Mm-hmm. Great feedback and experimentation, a laboratory, if you will. The marketplace is. That's why it's good to put economic incentives behind things, because you could just be like communist Russia and just be like, we're going to make 50,000 boots. You don't know how many boots are needed. You don't know how many boots versus ties are needed, and that's why you never have what you need. And there's always a surplus of what you don't need, blah, 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 that kind of a thing. It's simple, basic Adam Smith marketplace type stuff. That's why you would also want to do it that way, in addition to the fact that you're benefiting from it. And also you're going to be selling these magazines, okay, and selling these books, and also going to be showing up in movies, right, and print media of all kinds. In other words, full court press. Kevin Samuels is talking about this stuff. He maybe has his own particular brand and line of it. Drake wore it on the video. There's a whole, there's a book written about the history of this particular style of kaftan from the Nilotic peoples of Northern Africa, blah, 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 all those kinds of things. And then there's this African-American spin on it, this, that, and the other. Another particular avenue in these magazines that you'll also be selling, Mr. Billionaire, one thing where there's a huge opportunity is in African foods that you can put a twist on. There's an empty, vacant space already for African food. In other words, it's like Chinese food, Italian food, you know that. But what is West African food? Where are the West, you know what I mean? Other than, you have to go to Atlanta or Houston and this kind of, that kind of thing in this street over there with the Nigerians, and you can't quite trust them. But what
your people
is exactly? People. I know how we roll, but you see the marketplace. It's almost like this vacant spot right there. I know, for example, that there's good food out there too that you can take, that's palatable, that can be marketed, that you can put a twist on. In other words, because we're talking about in the West, African-American type stuff. You put an African-American twist on it, okay? Now you have in this magazine, which tends to be lifestyle stuff, plus, pushed also by influencers and so on and so forth. Along with this kaftan you're wearing, what are you eating? What restaurants does this particular gentleman go to? This masculine gentleman shown in this whatever. Oh, here are all these foods. There's another opportunity for money to be made while still pushing the image and creating that overarching story.
I like that. There was actually a restaurant in my hometown called Africana or something like that. It didn't make it. It had a decent run. There's some real rib joint right there right now. But the Africana place had a nice little run. It was ran by some Kenyans, and it was sort of like my only time seeing an example of what you're talking about. How, I mean, not exactly what you're talking about, because it was a lot of people went there. A lot of black people went there just curious, like, African food. We see Italian food, Chinese food from all these different places. Well, what does food, and this even sounds weird saying African food because there's so many different countries and cultures and all that, blah, blah, blah. But what does African food taste like? What is that like? So it was almost like they, for a brief moment, they kind of, tapped into something. So I do understand what you're saying. Now, overall, they could have adjusted those prices a little bit. But anyway, it was
Yeah, and
they're trying to rip our heads off with those prices after like the first 2 months of having it like low prices, and they just went all the way up. I think that's why they went out of business. But anyway,
the restaurant business is a tough business.
Yes, it is.
However, there are people who know how to do it using celebrity chefs and this whole media type push, right? It's all up in the food channel and there's a show about it. And then you send, some other influencer comes out that is similar to what's his name now? He died recently, but he used to do that show where he travels around and eats food. I forget his name now, but that's horrible. It's right on the tip of my tongue and his image is in my face. But those kinds of shows that are really popular, right? So again, media, billions of dollars can make this happen, right? Okay. Not throwing it off wasted. You're like, no, you're selling those kaftans, you're selling these magazines, you're selling the lifestyle, you're opening those restaurants, you're pushing the food, the this, the that. You probably even got hand in the import and export of rice now, or the things that need to be brought over here, because that's part of one of the reasons why the food tends to be expensive is there's not mass importation of certain of the ingredients, right? So you're developing this whole industry, right, that is about pushing a particular image, right? You're putting a twist on things. Like somebody said, Chinese don't really fry their chicken that way or whatever. In other words, so you're going to bring in the African food, you'll put an African-American twist on it or whatever, an American twist, let's just call it an American twist on it. But now people can say, yes, you haven't Ghanaian today, or you have a Nigerian, or you want Indian, right? That can become like a regular kind of a statement that you make. That it goes a long way to that image thing, and also a long way to that narrative of binding people together that this billionaire has to do, right? And this is all going towards the image part of things. And just a couple of things about that, like Africans, for example, have completely embraced hip hop. Like, it's not like, they have. It's like, it's always been embraced, right? It's always been ever since it came out, right from the beginning, boom, like hip hop, right? And then you have Afro beats, for example.
And real quick, the thing that's on the screen, did you want to be showing that?
No.
You got a screen down there.
Yeah, let me go ahead and take it off. I just wanted that, just what I used to. I used my main screen to just show that picture.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm still. It was kind of distracting. I kept looking down there, thinking I need to click to bring it up. I didn't know if that was. But okay, all right, go ahead.
No problem. So basically, there is a general kind of story of this exchange that you're trying to expand upon, right? Some exchange is already going on, okay? Africans embrace hip hop. African Americans have embraced Afrobeat, if you will, right? All over England, it's there, for example, or in parts of Atlanta, Afrobeat everywhere, which is mainly a West African, mainly Nigerian type of music style, right? So there are great opportunities for marketing more of this kind of crossover, right? While putting a particular image on it, because you're trying to create a unique identity here. Is what you're trying to do, right? Mm-hmm. So that, this is the how, right? In as granular a fashion as we can see. And the part of the reasoning, part of the reasons that there is a breakdown in society is this concerted effort to remove the connection or the culture of, let's say, African Americans, right? At least that is a narrative out there, that part of the reason that there is a breakdown is that there is no, what we said needs to be there, which is that overarching narrative of, these are our women, this is how they dress, these are the rituals that we do, these are the things that we do, this is the whatever, we came from the sun god in the first year of the creation of the universe, is our story, it's our mythology, that kind of thing. When you lose that, and you lose that overarching top-down narrative, it breaks down a community. Hence, part of the solution, only part, I get that it's just part, okay, will have to be this reaching back a little bit. You cannot just completely cut off and be like, we're starting fresh. There is no looking back to taking from where we came from, twisting it with a postmodernist kind of view, where it's like, you're not going to create some BS. People are not going to take it anymore. But it still has to be about image, branding, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, the problem that we always run into is whenever Black people talk about, who are we, and and where we're from and where we're going and all the conversation. All roads lead back to slavery or some form of oppression, and that's the so when it comes to just having a cultural story, yeah, Black people in America, it's always going to be some stumbling blocks, because and then there's the percentage of people who love the oppression, who I swear they get high off of it. They like to circle everything back to it. Somebody could be talking about a modern day problem. Somebody was talking about a modern day problem. They were bringing up unfortunate statistics about how often molestation or something like that happens among Black youth or whatever. And undoubtedly, let the conversation goes on long enough, somebody's going to say, well, back during slavery, I'm like these are modern problems that can get fixed. And so whenever we go back and try to look at ourselves as some broader, people with views, ideas, beliefs, and we can go back to the positive moments of Black Wall Street, but then even then that ended in blowing up in flames, because then everybody talk about the Tulsa situation and all of that. So that's an automatic stumbling block when it comes to telling a story of us, so to speak. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's because so many Black people cling to it. It's almost like that's all we got. If we and the people who kind of like cast all that to the side, to the side, those are the people that I believe have a more upbeat, forward moving type of perspective on things, that says I'm not going to be defined by our negative history, but a lot of our history is negative. So
I 100% get what you.
It's hard to tell a new story and tell that new story to Black people. That's a difficult thing.
You might be surprised. In other words, for sure we don't know, right? But I think that the story that I'm laying out right now, in other words, the possible how is plausible, right? It's at least plausible that if you go top down, marketing, full court press, Kevin Samuels and Drake and the magazines and the this and that, all together, that like people do actually want some positive stuff. And again, it's not everybody you're looking for, right? You're not looking for everybody. You're looking more like 35%, right? And then because the vocal minority, right? I think those people, the people you just described, the actual ones who push and always agitating that way, they're probably like 10% of people. Okay, you want the 35%, there's probably like a 10% of people. Okay, that's like 45%. And then there's just the people like 55% that don't care either ways. They're kind of like, I don't know, they're watching Game of Thrones and drinking beer, or like they're just not even present, generally speaking, anyways, right? So you just need a critical mass. And I think that it is possible to do that. I saw some Omega Dread say something about when I mentioned something about our women. I wasn't talking about any particular women that exist right now even, or the women you would be talking about. I'm talking about the phrase, this is what our women do. Most cultures have that. In other words, this is what our women wear. This is what our men wear. That kind of thing. In other words, the image, the story, that belonging and identity, if you will, is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about any of quote unquote our women, that phrase that gets bandied about out here in these spaces, right? So, but you know what I mean, right? When I say that sentiment of our women, right? So that's what you're trying to recreate. Because when I get to the competition part, turning up the competition, you're gonna see that I'm trying to turn up the competition. I'm trying to be like, okay, well, we're gonna turn away. We're gonna import, along with the importing of the food and the clothes, we're gonna import all kinds of shit.
Yeah. Got you. And
look, this is no offense to anyone. It is just a possible way in which it could go, right? So it's not going to be perhaps in your lifetime, or it'll take a couple of generations to for it to all happen. So it's not, and if you want to participate, let's say in the side of women now, who are like, oh, what do you mean you're trying to get them to, it's like, well, people already have that ideology right now in terms of like the cis-bim and all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to make it more of an economic thing where it's like, okay, look, Kevin Samuels or whatever, and some other big, and I'm talking about Kevin Samuels times 10 now because that's where he's going. Shout out to Kevin Samuels, right? So it gets bigger and bigger, hooks up with those other people, bigger, goes beyond just, looking at, let's find some cooperative feminine women here, and goes over to other places where it's like, these women have been specifically trained for this stuff. They're coming with a particular kind of culture. Hey, simps in the manosphere, the barrier to entry is low. The stigma is down. Here they are. That's turning up the competition, right? Mm-hmm. That's that last part of it. But the training aspect. I'm sorry. Did you say something?
Yeah. Well, okay. It was image, competition, and what was the other thing?
The training. There's image, and then there's the training,
okay.
and then there's competition.
You just made your way to it. So okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So the training aspect is part of that whole reinstating order in men, right? Order and hierarchy. So we had talked about it in several ways before. We were talking about rites of passage. We talk about a situation whereby you're going from a boy to a man, and then a man with more and more responsibilities, where you're teaching them to build the house, figuratively and literally, while you're teaching the women to make the house a home, and that this is how it works everywhere. And we're not reinventing the wheel here in that particular regard. So how though? Okay, that's the challenge. Or how do you go about training dudes? I think that there are two things kind of involved here, which is that first and foremost, you need to create a network of competent businesses and individuals. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is something like Yelp. Okay? What I mean by that is because, look, over here in Africa, for example, people will waste your time. They do African time over here. Okay? In United States, shout out to black barbers. I go to black barbers. That's the, but it says on Google or his page, he opens at 10. He's never there at 10. Like he's never. You know what I mean, right?
I don't, because I didn't know that was a thing. This is one.
Oh, you cut your own hair, huh?
Yeah. That's one aspect of black culture that I have done very little participating in, and that's the whole barbershop culture. When I want my sons to get a really nice haircut, I'll take them there, but I normally can cut their own hair too. So I personally don't know how much of a problem that is with black barbers not starting on time. That's unfortunate.
Not starting on time. I have no problems with people smoking weed, but you're smoking weed at the wrong time. You're smelling like weed at the wrong time. You know what I mean? And this is real life experience. I'm not making this up. And again, I don't have a problem with it, but it's like, how do you expect to grow and expand with that? Treating everything like it's your backyard barbecue. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Very loose, relaxed attitude about everything. That's not, look, there are universal standards of competence that we can see all over the place, and it's not a white man thing, okay? It
right.
Be Korean, Chinese, Japanese, Egyptian, I don't care, Moroccan, Spanish. It's a universal standard of competence. It's not, what am I going to do? You want me to be like one of them white lames or whatever the hell you're talking? No. Smoke your weed, do your thing, but just do what you know what it is. I don't have to tell you what to do. Right?
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to tell you what to do, bro. Right? So, point is, people want to support, and this is about training, okay? But people want to support, let's say, black businesses, okay? But you don't know that they're particularly good or not, right? And there is an association already, a stereotype, which usually is based on something true, that they'll waste your time, they'll do CP time, they'll not give you the top quality, but they expect you to support them anyways, something like that. Mm-hmm. Even if they're top quality, they may do it's one thing or the other, right? So you create this network. Think of Yelp. Yelp makes money. I don't know how much money Yelp makes, right? But it's a business, one of these San Francisco startups, right? And it makes money. Same billionaire, right? Maybe now it's your friend, right? You, Bernard, or whomever is you're the media mogul, right? You're doing that kind of stuff. Your friend in the tech industry is like, I have an idea for a Yelp for black businesses, right? I am going to, the people who run the program, the platform, vet the people. Like John Smith, accountant. He's a good accountant. That's one level of vetting. Plus also the customers, just like Yelp, get to give reviews and stars, right? So the people who have this particular, so it's more than a Yelp. It's a place whereby the people who actually establish this stuff have skin in the game. They're vouching for John Smith, because I think it needs to be more than a Yelp, because you need to establish more credibility in the beginning, and mostly especially before then it becomes more of a democratic thing where everybody votes, right? So there's going to be levels too where John Smith is a gold star accountant. Bernard Riley is a gold whatever carpenter or whatever YouTuber / whatever he does, right? And then there's levels, plus also it's almost like Rotten Tomatoes, where you have the experts review and then you have the regular people review. So you want to support black business, right? Because you have that sentiment, right? But also you don't want to throw your money away in some freaking hole, and you want a good place that'll vet people anyways. So you're like accountant, lawyer, construction company, plumber, whatever it may be. You go to this site, okay? The people on this site obviously have to pay dues, right? So there is money, there's monetization, also there's ads. It's a whole tech app thing. There's money to be made in that regard. And this is how you then establish, first of all, the network, because there are these local networks. It's like, oh, in Atlanta, this person knows this person and this person knows that person and this, but it's too local. It's like these localized little neighborhoods, if you will. But you want to make it global, take it into the net and make it vetted. Okay, now you form that group. That's the public face of the group. Okay, the public face of the group is economic vetting of nodes that can give you super quality service on different scales. There's also a, shall we say, not so public facing part of this group, whereby some of the funds are used for nonprofit activity, such as providing training and mentorship for young boys, right? You can kind of see how these things go hand in hand. The kinds of people that are like, yeah, I am proud of being Bernard Riley, best whatever in town. I'm the best plumber in town. I'm the best accountant in town. I'm part of this group. I get customers, so on and so forth. Okay, part of the dues are used for this particular thing. And then the people whom run the company, right, your billionaire friend, he gets to choose certain people to be in certain committees, if you will, right, that decide on the programs. Like, okay, today we're going to, or this year, we're taking in these people, because now this is global, okay? So you have chapters everywhere. So it's not just like a small thing. You have chapters everywhere, and there is a unified program of mentorship, unified program of. Now so far it's practical, but this is where you then infuse all that woo stuff we talk about, right? What's the woo stuff? The woo stuff is the story. The woo stuff is and the rituals don't have to be anything crazy. Okay, it's, so you, Bernard, you've created these outfits, right? Maybe there's a special ceremonial one for when boys pass a certain stage, right, of this mentorship / training program. Okay, right? They put on that thing and they wear the white glove and they go into this room and there's a red carpet and the 4 officers of the whatever of the chapter of what blah 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 say certain things, and you get the picture, right? And that's the not so public facing part of this same business that we're talking about. Now I've said a lot, okay, with regards to this training thing, but any thoughts generally either about the network of nodes that are vetted by the company and also vetted by the clients. And then below that, there is a nonprofit aspect to it, global, many chapters all over the place, mentorship, rituals and rites of passage and so on and so forth, with committee members who know what they're doing with regards to these kinds of things. In other words, the artist, philosopher, king types.
Yeah, no, I was listening to what you were saying. You were saying some good stuff. It's a funny thing that happened here. I was already in the process of talking to texting my editor saying we got to change the thumbnail, not for the reason that people just explained in the chat. They're alleging that the woman that the editor used in the thumbnail is a transformer. I wanted the thumbnail changed for a different reason, but now that I know that one, I really need it changed. So yeah. So that's being worked on, fellas. So that's being worked on. That's being worked on right now. I used the thumbnail that he sent me. I didn't know who or what that was. I just used the thumbnail that he sent me. I told him what the show was about, and he made a thumbnail. And so there's that. So just chill, relax. We gonna take care of it. Rocco Killer 7 says Ike dropping gems. Appreciate appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the super chat. So yeah, Ike, I'll be honest, I was a bit thrown off.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit thrown off during the while you were talking right there, because I was already off camera trying to get a situation situated and then the chat started saying some stuff, and I was like, so I'm not gonna lie, I was all thrown off. I generally got what you said, but I can't add much to it because I was clearly distracted.
Good. Then if I don't see much pushback in the chat either, because I think this is the kind of thing that solves two problems within the same lane and amongst the same kind of group of people. You're bringing competent people together to boost their businesses, and then a lower level of that is almost like some kind of Rotary Club that you create. Okay, not super secret or anything like that, right? Not like some kind of skull and bones type thing, but it's not so public facing, right? And on the top level, you have these nodes. They're vetted by the organization, right? Money-making organization. Their dues are paid by each of these nodes, accountants, lawyers, and so on and so forth. They have a ranking, and also they're voted on in terms of how good they are, just like Yelp, by the customers. Underneath, you have a system whereby each of these chapters have people that organize the training, mentorship of young men using these kinds of imageries, rituals, rites of passage, and so on and so forth, which is very important. Like human beings you can't just tell a woman, hey, here's home economics, go do it. No, you have to have festivals also that celebrate womanhood every year. All cultures do that. You have to have, she's going from a girl to a, same thing with guys, right? You can't just be a man. No, there's gotta be some kind of ceremony. That's what we do. That's how we are. Plus, it ties us together, right? It's a common kind of thing that puts us all together. And
let's talk about that. Yeah. The ceremonies that take where a boy turns into a man. I remember it was a very funny joke that somebody had brought up that I forgot what comedian it is. Well, you know how in the Jewish tradition or whatever they have their rights. What do they call it when the boy
bar mitzvah?
Yeah, they have bar mitzvah. Yeah. So they have their bar mitzvah, and I think it was Billy Crystal. He said that the whole thing it was made out to be a big deal, but he was saying it was a huge letdown to him because he thought something really big and really great was going to happen, and so I don't want to botch the joke completely, but he says every day you go over to the I don't even want to tell the joke because I'm going to botch it. So when you talk about those rituals. Mm-hmm. It seems odd. It seems odd when people try to create a ritual, create a tradition, start something. The first inaugural that doesn't. It never hits the same when it does trying to start it, and then you're trying to get people to catch on to it. Like, I guess that would fall into part of the advertising of the image of it all, getting people to be. Getting people to buy into it. You see what I'm saying? You see how it could run into a problem, because even the reason I brought up Billy Crystal talking about his bar mitzvah and everything is because he basically said it's really a lackluster event, but it's a tradition. You see?
Yeah. Now,
but I guess the point that I'm trying to make it can't be so if it's not some deep rooted tradition going all the way back. And it's still kind of lackluster. The only thing that makes people hang on to it is because they've been doing it for a while and they got to do it because mama and grandmama and granddaddy and granddaddy and granddaddy and great granddaddy is basically saying, yeah, you have to do this. This is what we do. You have to do this. I did it back in my day, and your father did it, your grandfather did it, and you're gonna do it too. It's like that's sort of the thing. So it just turns into a.
I get your point, but let me turn it on its head. I would say that in the beginning is when things are more monumental. Now, they may not have taken their full final form, sound like Dragon Ball Z here, but it's in the beginning that they're more monumental. And then as time goes on, it then just becomes kind of washed down. You got to do it. But it tends to be the case, right? Writ large, on average, that when we talk about these traditions, back in the day, people believed in it more. People had to earn it more, right? Like there was more of a earning the right to become. You really got to study that stuff. You really got to recite. There is no faking, blah, 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 that kind of a thing. So in the beginnings of this particular one, where you have, again, and I'm tying everything to economics here. That's kind of that's the little trick I'm playing here, where on the front, there is an actual app, a business, okay, whereby you can then find good black businesses, okay? That same black business has a nonprofit type stuff. Therefore, it's broad chapters everywhere, and they do this kind of thing. The rituals or the rites of passage will not be given until the person has demonstrated, right, that they have reached a certain threshold. Like it can even be like Catholicism with confirmation, for example. You have to pass, right? You study the catechism, which I did. You go through all these steps and all these hoops, take all these classes, and then you have to pass what they call the scrutiny and so on and so forth. And then you get to wear the white flowing whatever and walk down the blah blah blah. So the same thing here. These people that are being mentored, just like the Boy Scouts or whatever, you're not just gonna get your badges just because, right? It's gonna be substantial, monumental, so on and so forth. Where basically you're teaching them how to build that house, as we say, right? Figuratively, literally, and there's gonna be different lanes depending on different strengths, if you will. But with the overarching theme being teaching men how to dominate the external world, because that's their thing. That's what they do. Dominate the external world. Stop talking about peace leaf. You sound like an idiot. They're universal standards, again, of competence, and one of which is real dudes don't talk. In other words, every dude talks about it, right? Everywhere in all culture. But it's the emphasis. It's like in the talking about it in the exclusion of everything else. And then it's that which validates you also. And it just becomes, oh my God, shut the hell up, right? So putting something else that replaces that, and then you have a ceremony, which I kind of described, which is not so crazy. It's just you have this garb, Bernard, right? And it's Bernard's friend that has the app. But you, Bernard, you're selling the hell out of all these kaftans. But then you have traditional or you have ceremonial ones, right? Just like the Navy, the military, they have their blues, the what they wear for the ceremonies, right? And then they have their regular stuff. So you have your regular kaftans that you're selling, but now you have ceremonial ones, where this one is for when the guy does this particular thing for this particular organization, right? And they come in, they put it on, and there's a whole kind of I can picture it in my head, right? The music, the how everyone else is dressed nicely, just people showing up, right? And putting forth their best. In other words, everyone is dressed nicely, everyone is looking regal. That is very substantial, in the mind of a young man whom has done something to actually earn that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, you're making a good case, definitely making a good case for how you can establish it out the gate. So so we talked about the image, the competition, and the
training.
The training.
Competition we haven't really gotten too deep into at this point.
You said you haven't.
The competition.
Let's get into that. That's really the more interesting part. Partly because it circles back to pussy. So
there you go. Yeah.
So that's the part. That's the part that they want to hear. That's what they're here for.
They're here for the competition. So basically, you need to intensify the competition. This is simple economics, right? You're saying, hey,
but real quick, the training of men, that's ultimately competition as well, because you're training men to 100%. Also be more competitive out in the man world, so to speak. So yeah, and
there's a hierarchy aspect which men need. Like men need to know where they are in the hierarchy, right?
Right.
And then there needs to be complete shaming and utter kicking out of useless men, right? Useless men that have nothing to their name other than swag and game and keep talking about peace leave like that's it's like, come on, nigga. It's yeah. So then you need to intensify the competition in terms of the women, right? Because on the side of the men, you're like, we're going to train you up. On the side of the women, you're like, okay, cool. Here's the deal. Either we're going to, like Kevin Samuels is doing, like, I'm going to find this feminine, cooperative, beautiful, either FBI, feminine, beautiful, inspiration, or FFFC, feminine, friendly, and fit, and cooperative, whatever the FFFSC, blah, 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 and do SSS, sex, sandwich, and silence, whatever your acronym, pick your favorite Kevin Samuelism, right? But you say, okay, cool. In addition to that, you're going to go to the continent, right? And you're going to go to Brazil and certain other places, and you're going to find them there as well. You're going to make sure that these are people whom are raised to be that way, raised to be the wives that these men say that they want, right? Mm-hmm. And a part of that training of men is to get them to want to participate again in this whole family structure business. Why? We talked about the why a long time ago, which is that this thing is kind of important, because without it, you have the results that you see, right? you have the results that you see, and no one is necessarily happy with the results that we see, right? So You need to participate again, but only with worthy women. And then you turn up the competition on the worthy women. You're like, hey, here's this dating agency. It's international. Barrier to entry is low. Here's how you can get yourself a cultured woman who is raised to be fit, feminine, cooperative wife, if you will, raised to be a wife, that kind of thing. So if the Western woman wants to compete, in other words, the ball is in their court. In other words, I'm not going to say what they're going to do. This is just economics, right? Mm-hmm. If you create competition, well, then the ball is on the court of the person who now has to compete, and they can take one or two. They can individually act. They can decide what they're going to do, right? So Kevin Samuels goes, he collaborates with, African Tigress or African media, influential matchmaking service, vets African women for this particular thing. They use media and marketing again, right? Media and marketing and so on and so forth, just like his whole catch and prize thing, but a much larger scale. You remove the stigma and the barrier to entry, and the social institutions, right, that guide men into manhood, just to reiterate this point, also encourage men not to deal with non-cooperative, non-feminine women, which is like, look, you're not going to do that, okay? We are not here mentoring you, training you to dominate and master the external world for you to go get run over by some crazy, chaotic person. Like, that's not going to happen. Our job here is to, again, because if you remember on the second stream, we talked about the female chaos, which is no longer being policed, right? Male chaos is still very much policed. You got the cops out there, but the female chaos, which has to do with social, emotional, psychological violence, as we know, which is quite terrible, right? Mm-hmm. You could have gotten punched in the face, Bernard, a couple of weeks ago, and perhaps you could get punched in the face in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 10th grade, whatever, and forgot about it, right? But some people never get over psychological abuse. You know what I mean? Yeah. So a lot of times people are like, whatever, you just got an alpha. It's like, no, that's bullshit. That's BS. No, F you if you're trying to do that whole, like, it's nothing, okay? They do a lot of damage with that emotional, psychological abuse, right? It's almost like saying that they're not human beings. We're all human beings and we're all snakes. It's like Jordan Peterson says, we're monkeys filled with snakes, both male and female. So there's chaos in both of us. The male chaos, we understand. We see it. It's violence, right? The female chaos is not so outward, but it's there equally and sometimes perhaps even more dangerous. That's why both of them need to be policed, right? So you train them not to bring in any vipers, right, into their space, right? While turning up the competition. Like, hey, look over here. Look, we're going to find people who have been cultured and been trained, and we're bringing over certain aspects of their tradition, incorporate it. It's going to go back into that whole story and media thing whereby we're going to take aspects of the tradition of their ceremonies that celebrate femininity, incorporate it, put our little twist on it, you, Bernard Billionaire, you create their outfits too for the women, right? And these particular little ceremonies or whatever that you advertise in the books and in the social media, so on and so forth, blah blah blah.
Right. If anyone ever asks the question, why does a brother like Ike, why is he attached to this thing called the manosphere? What you really just laid out and explained is more or less what the manosphere is doing at a grassroots level. You see, a lot of what you're talking about, the manosphere is already doing it, already talking about it. Like, do you understand what I'm saying right there? Like, when you talk, like, damn, what did you say? You said something about how Kevin Samuels, well, not even just Kevin Samuels, everybody has been talking about that, but Kevin Samuels has put a focus on it. Like, you don't work hard to become that man that you're supposed to be, so you can put up with some out of pocket chick that don't know how to act. That's counterintuitive. The competition aspect of it, yes, men are in here talking about, hey, if we got to go to a different culture to get what we need, or blah blah blah, we're going to do that. Like, everything that's happening in the manosphere, and sometimes it's happening in a productive way and talked about in a productive way. Sometimes in a not so productive way, but either way it go, it's being discussed. It's being discussed and it's being talked about, and I can see how somebody with the ideas that you're talking about right now, why you I don't want to say align, but definitely attached to this, because it really is a good grassroots of affecting macro change. It's at the early stages.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, exactly. So it's like everything we've been saying throughout the stream, very like, okay, female chaos unleashed. Therefore, you need to accept it, male choice, and also male order. Go further, even from the very beginning, where it's like, well, men are expecting too much from women, where it's like, well, stop expecting. You need to understand the nature of the creature, nature of human beings, nature of the female of the species, nature of emotions, and so on and so forth, right? So all these things that we say, and then when we get to the macro part, where we start talking about, well, community needs to be built. Contained within what we're saying is all these things that are said in the manosphere, but we're just putting a whole big bowl around it, calling it community, talking about ritual, talking about story, talking about image, right? Using big, bold words around it, and then adding, okay, it needs to be big money, big business, big all full court press type of attack, but on the same principles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. Where are we at? Snuggles668 says, Bernard, you need to find a way to phrase your streams where it will catch the attentions of people's eyes, because this is good information. I thought I already did that. Phrase my streams in a way that catch the attention of people's eyes. I thought that I was halfway decent at that. But thank you, Snuggles. I appreciate the little tidbit of advice. I've all the trolling thumbnails and titles that I've had. He just throw that out there. Anyway,
generally speaking, I think the people that come to streams like this, there's a particular cohort of people that do this, and then you're gonna have bigger numbers when you're talking about other kinds of things, which you know how that goes. We can have a whole bunch of game dudes here right now and have MOT come in and flamethrower the place, and it'll be on and cracking everybody. Shout out to MOT and his flamethrower, by the way. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, but no, when we do these discussions, the one, and I told the editor, I don't, because I remember he put Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion in that one thumbnail, and I was like, that's a little too much. Now I was like, Ike probably not gonna like that. But when he just went full gangster on the thumbnail and had Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion in there with their tongues licked out, it drew a bigger audience in, and so the audience probably came in for the shiny object of the thumbnail, but then got some good information. So we might go a little ratchet on the thumbnails going forward, like just to draw in a bigger crowd. But Snuggle668 says, hey Ike, what would it take for people to send you their business on Instagram for you to promote? There is a lady selling captions. What? I don't. Okay, yeah.
It's
go
a,
ahead.
it's, a, it's what I was. Is that stuff I was? Is that Wakanda stuff I was wearing?
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. That's what it would take for people to send you their business on Instagram. Are you even on
Yeah, you just
Instagram?
go on Instagram. Yeah, you go on Instagram. Yeah, Ike Ogiamien. I'm the same person everywhere. In other words, that first name, that last name. I make it easy because it's not easy to spell, but that way you don't have to be like. It's also easy because no one else. There is no other Ike Ogiamien out there.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
So it's like type that in YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, wherever you. That's the same person, right? I'm on Instagram. Send it out, DM, or Ike at PrometheusEngineering.org. That's for more kind of official stuff. But you'll guarantee that I'll see that one because I'm like, hey, is that money coming my way?
Yeah.
And then I may be disappointed, but I'll look at it.
Right on, right on. And when you just said your name right there, I just realized, I've been saying Ike Ogiamien, but it's Ike Ogiamien. See, I've been saying it. I've been saying
Yeah, it's
it
just
all
a hard
wrong.
G, and the rest is easy. It's just the G is hard, and that's it.
Yeah. It's fairly easy. Wait, real quick while I'm here, while I got my phone in my hand, even though y'all can't see me with the phone in my hand. What was I saying? I was doing something. Somebody dropped a Cash App earlier. Says for consistent content, and Ike says RT the brand or Right the brand. I don't know. Oh yeah, RT. Okay, I see what he's saying right there. I think RT the brand may be his YouTube.
Yeah.
That's the YouTube name. Yeah, that's his YouTube name. Okay, yeah. Shout out to you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the Cash App. Appreciate that. But good stuff laid out here. There was a moment where I'm not going to lie, I was distracted. I was on the phone with my editor trying to get some things situated and worked out. So yeah, you did a good job. Did a good job monologuing while I was trying to do two things at one time off the camera. So I appreciate that. Was there something else to add to it as far as the image, the competition, and the path to manhood, so to speak?
Yeah, I think that it's nothing to add. It's something to reiterate and to emphasize. And I mentioned it earlier, which is that there is an economic. Is that I'm using economics here because it is a great incentive. Ha ha ha. Right? Of course. Plus, the marketplace is a great laboratory. You can just throw money in the air or throw money into these particular, initiatives, if you will, not quite knowing what you're getting. But if you're talking about developing image, right, it's like, okay, cool. Well, then you have things to sell. There are opportunities, right, in terms of the clothing or in terms of the food, in terms of other kinds of image, and in a positive way, not just talking about, we're always portrayed this way as Pookie, over there. Like, forget that. Well, what is your masculine, male, competent image? That's neither Pookie nor a simp, right? Because I don't want no simp, there's a guy who's a freaking simp holding a baby looking at it. Like, I don't want that shit either, right? So, but economics incentivizes this billionaire or group there of them. You can form a Voltron, right? A Voltron billionaire type to do this thing. And also it is a place whereby you can see the marketplace give feedback. You see demand, supply. You see the changes and the pivots and so on. So you see the stuff working. Plus, it becomes self-sustaining because there's profit, right? Hopefully. And also in this part of the training, I also then tie these two things together, which is the need to connect, to find vetted Black businesses so that they can grow and create these networks, because that creates that collective feeling of oneness, while making money with this app, such as a Yelp-like app, right? And then with that same organization, you have a shadow side, if you will, that is doing this kind of global mentoring, training of young boys, initiating them into manhood and so on and so forth, having certain standards that they follow and values, if you will. And even when you get into the competition part, right, of the women there is still an economic incentive, right? It's the Kevin Samuels of the world and other kind of media type of people having these shows and having dating agencies and so on and so forth. It's all economics, because that's the driving engine of a lot of change most of the time. So I just want to reiterate that. And for me, well, that's the best at this time, given a week to think of how these grand ideas could be implemented. And then it's kind of open to criticism, additions, and so on and so forth. But I think it's a good start.
Yeah, I think so too. Are you up? Well, we normally keep this around the 2-hour-ish mark. Are you up for some questions, comments, concerns coming from the audience via the StreamYard link?
Yeah, that's not a problem if they're down to do it.
Yeah, I can. I'll put that in there. Come up on topic. Come up on topic, but we might might wrap this up soon, but we might get some good back and forth coming in and people coming in with their ideas and perspectives. There's the link right there. Y'all can see my Patreons strolling across right there. Y'all see them scrolling right along. I've been picking up some Patreons lately. My Patreon been slow moving, but now that I take my live show down and put the live show on Patreon, some people have been joining a Patreon because I guess they missed the live shows when they're live. So I appreciate the few people that have recently joined the Patreon. I like to leave up all the stuff with me and Ike, so I don't know if this one will be taken down or not. But a lot of them do get taken down. So I appreciate anybody that considers becoming a Patreon. I definitely appreciate it. Snuggle says he thinks he will come up. I don't believe you. Shout out to Ace and Spade, says support Bernie Bernard. Thank you very much for that super chat. I appreciate that. Dallas Cowboys in the building with a super chat. Appreciate that. Also, oh shit, wait a minute, what did I do? I think I messed up. Something. All right, moderators, let's make sure we get Ike's channel floating around in here. There may be a few people that are not sub to Ike, so let's make sure we get that let's make sure we get in that in here. Okay, a lot of people coming through with the super chats. Chief Rocket in the building with the super sticker. Appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that. You mentioned Kevin Samuels a lot, and like you're known in this space as when you came through the door being super chat Jesus or whatever they called you out there. I forgot what they was calling you, but yeah. So clearly you see a bigger vision in what he's doing, probably more so than most, and I definitely do too. Because I pointed out how when some of the stuff that he's saying is people love him or hate him for better or worse. The amount of views that he's getting, he's ultimately red pilling the world. People from India, somebody from India just called into his show last night. It was like broad daylight behind her. She was in India. So people all over the world getting his information, ultimately red pilling the world. Rather people love him, hate him for better or worse. Man, bag, and all. He's the one that's made it there to red pill the world and just get a lot of the information that we talk about in this space out there. Yeah, so in your own yeah. Go ahead.
There's certain kinds of people that think that they will have been the ones that look, I'm about to say something wild and crazy, but it's to make a point about human psychology. I'm making it wild and crazy because I'm comparing Kevin Samuels to Jesus, but not really comparing him. I'm using the Jesus analogy here. Some people tend to think, that they will have been the ones that would be like, would have been there saying not to sacrifice Jesus, or they will have been, in other words, people are always thinking that or hoping for this perfect image to come to do their bidding, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, boy, he's got to be like this and he's got to be like that. just the fact that you're a group makes it such that that's impossible to begin with. Even as an individual, you never quite get 100% of what you want in someone else. Maybe like 80%. Mainly because you don't know what the hell you want, okay? People keep thinking they're just like machine, artificial intelligence. Like, no, I'm getting kind of esoteric now. I can feel it. I'm doing that thing. I'm not going to do it. I start getting all like Jordan Peterson like. But basically, you're not transparent to yourself, right? We're very opaque to ourselves. Okay, if we were very transparent to ourselves, then things such as therapists or meditation or problems of all kinds would not exist. So the idea that you know what you want, especially in someone that's representing certain ideas of yours, that you know what it should be, it's kind of crazy. Plus, when you're talking about a group, it's even crazier that this particular person is going to satisfy the group. Okay, good. Now, I'll also take it back to the thing I said about the Derek Jackson question, which is I look at things page by page. It's the engineer side part of me, for example. It's like, I know how to hey, here's this guy that carries himself a certain way. He also, let me see here. Well, the sales aspect of Kevin Samuels, the business acumen of him, I really liked that aspect, okay? And I'm the kind of person that I look at what's salient, what's kind of pragmatically in front of me, what's important. Not, he shouldn't be saying this to this person, or he always just does that, or every show is like, doesn't matter. It's like, okay, here's someone who is saying certain things which are mainly true and I agree with, okay? He's definitely a hustler. That's one of the biggest, and if you listen to my channel, you know that I got mad respect for hustle. And by hustle, I don't mean just any kind of hustle, like, they never knock anyone's hustle. That's not what I mean. But this is legitimate business, right? Yeah. I see a lot of myself in him in that regard. He's an engineer that's also kind of doing the sales thing, same kind of similar background, right? We kind of also, that whole dress thing that he does, that's also kind of my style. No, I didn't start copying Kevin Samuels. You can go back to my Facebook where I have pictures from whenever like I've always been wearing suits, right? So these kinds of affinities were there. Plus I'm like, he's actually like succeeding. And I like to back up things that are people that are putting in effort, right? So to the whole point of the bigger vision, I see, and that's why I was using him as an example, because right now he is that kind of the biggest influencer in this space, if you will. So I see the possibility of him being used. Okay, I see the possibility of him being used by these, billionaire friends of ours that we're talking about as he gets bigger and bigger, collaborating with these other people in order to push this particular image and the message and so on and so forth. And I think that he is skillful enough as a businessman, and he has his incentives nicely aligned. Okay, part of which is money, which is I don't trust people who do things for free. Okay. Because you're like, what's that? You're always like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Part of which is money, and he's out there making that money, and boom, keep on making that money, and he'll be able to. So far, he's been able to kind of keep the ship flying mainly by himself. Imagine if he had more of a team, so on and so forth. So that's kind of my whole general view of Kevin Samuels.
Right on. Chief Rocker, thank you again for that super chat. I appreciate that. We are joined by Ibrahim J. You have the floor. You have the mic. Fire away.
Salam, brothers. How are you doing?
Doing great. And just to be sure, this is the same. You've collabed with Ike, if I understand it correctly.
Yes, this is true. Ike is an interesting guy, dropping some gems sometimes and sometimes picking too many up, increasing that paper.
Right on.
Hey, Jay Ibrahim trying to be anyway, whatever.
But what's on your mind?
The question that I have here is to Mr. Ike. How can we forget the broken things that are happening in our communities, uplift ourselves, but in a very practical manner? How can we say we want in the next 10 years that we want this problem over here to be fixed? First, the woman divorcing even if their behavior changes, the fact that they can still divorce you will not change. How do we prevent the African or Brazilian woman from also going and being corrupted easily by the culture that is already corrupted the women over here?
There are no guarantees of that, right? However, the step-by-step program that we've tried to lay out ensures a certain amount of continuity with regards to the training, with regards to these festivities and shall we say those things that celebrate femininity, right? And with regards to and this is also in the training, the creation of more of the particular competent men whom view their masculinity in a certain way that will not go through all this training and work to just give it to a non-cooperative woman. In other words, no guarantees, but we're laying out an economic game here, or what's the game theory? A game theoretic landscape is what kind of we're laying out. And we have no guarantees as to how it will play out correctly, but we think we have the right incentives in place. There are incentives, in other words, that they will get, quote unquote, their high value man, right? If they get their act right. I was talking about the light ceremony last time. That was kind of one of my creations, imaginations, right? Whereby the man builds the house and then the woman brings the light into the house. It's the light and the warmth that makes the house a home. And the brighter your light, and it includes, yes, your beauty and your yes, beauty, yes. Because all cultures are clear about that. Over here in the West, we want to go all politically correct and weird about it, and then we hide and watch Instagram thoughts at night. And it's like, that's just stupid, okay? No, say it outwardly. Beauty is important, so on and so forth. So the idea here is they have incentives to not do that, but then there are no guarantees.
Okay, now the second thing that I want to say here is maybe if we create a game whereby the woman actually feels like she's important, like you mentioned in your last stream, is that they will not want to veer off. But what do you think shame mechanics has in place? By shame mechanics, I mean when women police each other by shaming each other based on the ones who engage in behaviors and or dispositions that is not from that which we prefer.
This is something that we can definitely also count on. Women tend to police not just each other, but everybody, right, in society. And I think, and I may be butchering this, and I don't know if it's an African proverb that says that a society is only as moral or as virtuous as the level of virtue of its women, right? Because they tend to be the ones that snitch on each other, let's say, or something like that, right? And make sure that they do what I believe the African Americans call it on code, right?
Yeah.
So exactly, they are very good at that stuff. The idea is to give them the right code with which to shame each other, right? And then that is also part of the incentive landscape that we can hope will help guarantee the continuity of the plan. But still, there are no guarantees.
Right. Jay Ibrahim, you are being summoned by Mumia Obsidian Ali of the Obsidian Media Network. He wants you to email him for something I don't know, but we will find out. We will find out. But yeah, probably wants to have you as a guest on his show. But so yeah, I would email him when you get a chance. But yeah, I believe you're being summoned. Did you have another question to put on top of that, Jay Ibrahim? Another question to Ike?
This one is more of a comment, but Mr. Ike, now when you have this system of the women operating within the coding, as you called it, that we seek, what will happen is they'll be playing multiple games whereby once you have the high value man, and what I'm saying by this is, from analyzing a lot of the manosphere is this, there's some parts like the Poor Man's Podcast where they believe that women should change their behavior based on the realities of modern times. For example, most men simply are not high value. This is a statistical fact. However, What I do also think is that if we have enough men, at least on average and beyond, but have status, some kind of swag, it seems that these women are prioritizing swag above these other things. So this code must include appreciating these men for different things more than that natural pookie swag, as they say.
That is a good comment. So now I'm only speaking for myself here, and I'm doing that thing where I'm going to completely. There was a scene on what's his name? Chappelle, Dave Chappelle. Yes, the Dave Chappelle show. There's this thing you should not do. Like when you freestyle, like you drop a hot 16, you're not supposed to go ooh right after.
Yeah.
Right?
The crowd is supposed to go, oh,
the crowd is supposed to, you know. But I'm about to do a little bit of that right now. Okay, so it's for the effect and for the rhetoric of it, in the sense that there are certain people that can hold court in several regards. Whereas, like, speaking of freestyle ciphers, for example, okay, having swag in that area, or being a frontman in a band, or killing it in the dance floor, while still being Mr. Straight-laced, I'll cut your throat in the boardroom, I'll outsell you, I'll out-engineer you, so on and so forth. In other words, understanding that this particular swag thing that people talk about, it is not one-dimensional, and it does not only come in this one particular kind of, it's almost like this fake counterfeit has been sold, that it only comes in this package, and that's where you only find it, and everyone else is, you get what I'm saying, right? But I use myself as an example, okay, that I can do all kinds of things and do it better than most of the people whom can only do that one thing. So hence, there has to be, I agree, Mr. J. Ibrahim, a way of kind of showing male versatility more, rather than, oh, this is this type of guy, and this is that type of guy. It's like, no, there's a lot of versatility in being a man. So you can't just, anyways, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, what you just explained happens a whole hell of a lot in this space, and it gets annoying almost to the. I'm going to actually do some pre-recorded content probably right after we get off of here, or maybe a little later today, regarding that. If you listen to my last show, it was longer. I forgot how long it was. It doesn't matter, but it's so many times guys, they come on and they speak in archetypes, and sometimes yes, that can be fun, it can be useful, it can make sense. There's guys that are the swag of guys. There are guys that are the swag or the mouthpiece guys, or the guys who supposedly don't need swag or mouthpiece because they just got the looks, the build, the muscular frame, and the jawline. Then there's guys who are successful and got resources. I mean, all those are different games that can be played out there. If we're talking about the NBA, there's different types of teams. There's teams that are smaller, that are faster, so they fast break. Some teams are bigger, so they go inside. Either way it go, you're trying to score baskets. So it doesn't need to be some big fight or one or the other. But the teams that are the best are the ones that do have the ability to do it all. They can play fast, they can play big, they can play on the outside, they can play mid-range. The teams that can do it all, those are the teams that tend to do the best. But people generally do what they are good at. But I do like what J. Ibrahim was saying when he was talking about ultimately, yes, a society and a culture works and functions better if the women put a higher premium on those different of all the different archetypes, the one that produces and yields better long-term results. Yes, if the women put a higher premium on that, because we're talking about free women in a free country, so they can do what they want with who they want to do it with. But yes, if they put a higher premium on the attributes that produce better long-term results for them and the children and ultimately the community, then yes, communities will function better. But if we're just talking about access to those women, like what we were ultimately, when we go 12 rounds into debates on this show, there are many ways to gain access to the women. But yeah, that was just the only thing that I wanted to say on that. But I'll rest it right
and
there.
I hate to cut it short, but it's approaching dinner time, and I have a dinner appointment somewhere out here in the streets of Addis Ababa, Habesha land.
Hey,
so
perfect. Go have at it. I was planning on cutting it at 2 hours, but Jay Ibrahim came up, so we extended it a little bit. So I want to thank you for coming on up, Jay Ibrahim. Please do as much as possible. I do like hearing your take and your perspective, and I do get mesmerized by the voice as well. I'm not gonna lie, but
yeah, Jay Ibrahim is the real deal. I might say certain things that he cannot say himself, right? He is the real deal out here, generally speaking, in northern Nigeria, but also all over the continent. He does big things. That avatar that he has, let me just put it like, he has that avatar there for a reason. It's not just no. He that avatar plus the voice and the whole package is actually what it is. Yes.
Yeah. I get the feeling that he's beheaded somebody. He just gives off.
I would not tell you. You know, these Fulani guys, you know, yeah, you never know what they're up to.
Yeah, he gives off those type of vibes, like he's beheaded somebody. But anyway, hey, thank you everybody for coming on in, for listening, for anybody with the Cash App, Super Chat, like, share, subscribe, whatever you did to participate in this show in any way, shape, or form. I appreciate each and every one of you. And with that said, we are out of here. Peace. We gone.